Don't be nervous. They are going to love you. I promise. My fiancé David told me as he grabbed my hand to kiss it. I looked over to his side of the car as he lowered our interlocked fingers to rest on his leg. I couldn't believe the happiness I felt at that moment. As I watched him sing along to the music that played in the car, I counted my blessings. Up until last year when we met, I had given up on love. I thought no man would ever live up to my standards. Or maybe I was unlovable. Well, none of it ever mattered anymore because I found him. The light of the sun came through the sunroof and bounced off his face. The large pine trees that lined the dirt road cast a shadow over him every few seconds. I felt mesmerized by him. He got to know me so fast in such a short amount of time. The good, the ugly, all of it. It all felt so right. I wanted to spend the rest of my life with him. Funny how such deep feelings can change so fast. Nothing ever seemed off about David. Maybe I was blinded by the love bombing or by the desperation I had to be needed by someone. He was so agreeable, never wanted to argue, and told me he loved me early on. The only thing that felt wrong was that it felt too right. I don't have anyone close in my life I could get advice from. I have a single mother who hasn't cared about me since I moved out at 18. I don't think she cared about me when I lived under her roof, honestly. I have no siblings. I've never met my dad, and I don't have many friends. That's probably one of the reasons why he chose me. After hours in the car, we made it to his family home. Stepping out of the car, I was relieved to stretch. Walked up to the front door and I nervously locked my arm around his. The door opened up just before we could knock. "Oh, hi. I'm so happy to meet you both. I'm Lacy," I timidly exclaimed. They both paused for what felt like a lifetime before a large smile grew on the woman's face. She leaned forward and gave me a hug that felt just slightly too long and too tight. As she pulled away, she grabbed my shoulders. "You are so beautiful," she told me. "Mom." "Come on," David said, embarrassed from behind me. "It's fine, David. I don't mind getting compliments," I responded with a grin, not knowing if I really was okay with it yet. "Don't mind her, Lacy. She doesn't know how to set boundaries with anyone," the tall man in the doorway said to me with a chuckle. "Hi, I'm Pate. We are so glad you came to meet us. We've heard so many wonderful things about you." As he finished his sentence, he nudged his wife, who seemed too distracted by me to hear what he said. "Oh, sorry. Dear, I must have zoned out for a moment there. I'm Linda. You both are totally fine. I feel like I know you both so well already. Introductions are hardly necessary." "That's so sweet of you to say. The feeling is mutual." "Well, come on in. Come on in," Linda said as she gestured for me and David to come inside. As we walked in together, I was welcomed with a strange feeling in my gut. The house felt too big, but also claustrophobic. The family seemed happy to see me, but it also didn't feel completely genuine. Maybe they just had a fight, I thought to myself. David seemed a little antsy as well, but I figured it was just nerves from us all meeting for the first time. The rest of the night was uneventful. Dinner and card games. It was getting late, so I was given a quick tour of where my room was and anything else I might need in the night. David walked me to my room as his parents went to bed. "Thanks for understanding why we should have separate rooms. You know how Mom and Dad are," David said as he opened the squeaky wooden door. "Oh, it's no trouble at all, I get it. I wouldn't want to make anyone uncomfortable," I whispered as I tried to lean in for a kiss. Sorry. I want to kiss in front of them either. It might be weird," he said as he winched and dodged my kiss. "Sure, I guess that's okay," I replied with squinted, confused eyes. I didn't think it was weird to stay in different rooms. I know some people think that is unacceptable, but David's whole family took that sort of thing very seriously. We had shared a bed before in the past, but only for actual sleeping, if you get what I mean. David was clear from the beginning of our relationship he didn't want anything physical until marriage. Kissing was normally fine, but that was the limit for him. I didn't mind. I always found it romantic. We said our good nights, and I went to check out my bed. It all seemed fairly average, but I still hadn't shaken that feeling from when I walked in. It wasn't as bad as before, but I still felt uncomfortable. The air was stuffy and the bedding was stiff. Every small thing made it hard to get comfortable, and I found myself shifting a lot. The house was so squeaky I couldn't figure out if it was the family walking around or just the product of an old home settling. Before I knew it, I was woken up by a sunbeam coming through the window in the morning. I could hear the hustle of breakfast being made downstairs. I made my way down the steps and heard the family informing each other that I was awake in a whispered tone. As I turned the corner and looked into the kitchen, they all sat at the table smiling at me. A huge extravagant breakfast lay across the table. More food than we would ever eat, like you see a housewife making a movie. Oh, all for me. You didn't have to. I could have at least helped a little bit, I commented with a laugh and wide eyes, looking at a massive pile of waffles. I sat down and started to load up my plate. It wasn't until a minute in that I realized no one was talking or eating. I felt so rude for not saying more. I was just so excited for the meal and am never a big talker in the morning. When I looked up at them, I was met with that terrible feeling again, but so much stronger. They all just smiled at me. So big it looked like their lips were starting to tremble. They sat with both hands in front of them folded. You guys good? Please eat, I said, trying to hide my nerves but failed miserably. You know, we are just so happy to have you around. Lacy, you are justly unjustified. Just so perfect, Linda said to me through her smile. I nearly choked on my waffles. Saying I was beautiful was one thing, but perfect, after knowing me for less than 24 hours? Lacy is right. Let's all eat together, David said. His parents nodded in agreement and started to fill up their plates. The rest of the meal felt awkward with little talking. After I was done eating, David insisted. The two of us went for a walk around the property alone. We walked a little ways from the house and he apologized to me for all the weird behavior. I know Mom and Dad are acting weird and, hell, I'm probably a little off too. And I'm really sorry for that. My parents have been through a lot in the last couple of years and rarely leave that old house. They really only see each other and me now, so I think they forget to act around other people. I guess I was playing along a bit to make them feel better. But honestly, I have forgotten how to act when around my parents and someone new. We're all so happy to have you here. I knew it might be a little strange, but it's all with love. I promise. As he finished his sentence, he put his arm around me as we walked. I knew his explanation didn't make me feel completely better, but at least helped it make the smallest amount of sense. I was still weirded out, but felt more comfortable with staying there. As we walked around the 50-acre property, I noticed many things that helped them live almost completely off the grid. Solar panels and crops made me realize how self-sufficient they were, how they really didn't need to leave for many reasons. He showed me the small duck pond that had two little tire swings hanging from a tree. Then we neared the house again and I saw the playhouses a few feet from each other. When I thought about it, I remembered seeing more things that came into us on our walk. David, why did you have to swings by the pond? You know, if Mom or Dad wanted to play on one with me, he replied while scratching his neck. Really? How did they fit? They kinda looked like small swings, I said with a chuckle. Yeah, I don't know. I guess they just squeezed in. Well, what about the playhouses? Why would you need two? Because I asked for two of them, he said while looking away from me. You got me there, I said with a laugh. I should have read his uncomfortably better at that moment. I was being dismissive of odd behavior because of his explanation at the start of our walk. I kept on just goofing around with him. We got back to the house and David said he wanted to talk with his parents alone for a minute. His parents, who still had big fake smiles plastered on their faces, accepted his request. I went into my bedroom and shut the door. I put my ear to the door to try and eavesdrop. I normally wouldn't do something like that, but with how weird everything was, I couldn't resist. All I could hear was a panicked tone from all three of them. It was in whispers and frantic, not like he was yelling at them, but worried. After around 10 minutes, David came to my room and let me know he talked to them. When I came back into the kitchen, everyone seemed more relaxed. It felt a little forced, but it was far less scary than the painted-on smiles. The rest of the day was laid back for the most part. We ate and played some more card games. Then it got dark out and things got really weird. We sat down to play Clue and Linda insisted I played Miss Scarlet. I chose Mr. Green as I have since I was a kid, but she kindly told me to switch characters. We all looked at each other. I looked at the rest of the family trying to understand if she was serious or not. They all made a face at her to stop, but she pressed on. Lacy, that's just how we do things around here, so please choose Miss Scarlet, Linda said through clenched teeth. Why do I murmured as she stood to her feet to face me. Okay, I said as I grabbed the Miss Scarlet token. Yay! I love it when you play Miss Scarlet. It makes me so happy. Linda said with glee. I play Miss Scarlet. What do you mean? This is the first time we have played Clue together. I said under my breath while David put his hand on my knee and shook his head at me. They played the rest of the game like nothing happened. That's when I started to question staying another night. I didn't feel safe anymore. Even if David was in my room, he seemed to turn into putty around his parents. I wanted to marry him. I was in love and wanted to make it work. How could such a short amount of time shift how I felt? After the game, Linda wanted to all sit around and look at some family photos. Pete seemed a little hesitant about it, but I know how convincing Linda could be. We all sat on the couches in front of the fireplace. Linda made us all hot chocolate and grabbed blankets. This exact scenario would be my dream typically. My whole body told me I should be relaxed. I was warm. I was with the love of my life. Everyone was laughing and reminiscing. But I felt so cold. So scared. How would I explain to David that I wanted to leave? Yes, he should understand and put me first. But this was so important to him. I was so zoned out of the conversation, only thinking about how to get out of that damn house. The stories they told went in one ear and out the other, and then all at once. I snapped back to reality when I noticed something odd about some pictures. Most of them were of David as a boy, playing in the yard, at a birthday party, and around the house, with him in the center of the photo. Some photos, however, looked off. They weren't a standard size. It looked like they'd been hand-cut with scissors. I could see slightly uneven edges. Also, the composition of the photos was slightly off. David would be far to the right or left with a random slice of the photo cut out. I was now paying extra close attention, asking lots of questions to try and get one of them to trip up about why someone or something was cut out of them. I knew if I outright asked, I could make Linda angry. Linda took out one particular photo and quickly put it in her pants pocket. Her eyes got wide as saucers and she looked at her husband. I think that's enough for tonight. It's late. Good night, everyone, she said as she stood to her feet and went to her room. I looked at Pete to see his reaction and he met me with an eye roll. I was confused by this response but didn't know what I was looking for. I glanced at David and he shrugged his shoulders and gestured to our rooms. We walked to my room and I asked David to step in with me. He was a little hesitant but I convinced him. What the hell was that photo and why did it end the whole night? I said angrily. Lacy, chill. It was probably a picture of my dad's ex-girlfriend. Sometimes pictures of her just end up in boxes because my dad is lazy and doesn't organize stacks of old photos before putting them in those big boxes. It's happened before. It's not a big deal. They are just dramatic about it. What? That doesn't make much sense. I promise it's okay. Haven't you noticed they are kinda weird? He said with a laugh. Yeah, I kinda wanted to talk to you about that. Talk about what? He shuffled nervously. I think we should leave tonight. I know this means a lot to you, but trust me, I need to get to know your parents better slowly. This is too much all at once. I hope they don't hate me for this, and I especially hope you don't hate me for this. But please listen, I confessed as I grabbed his hands. I'm not mad. I understand and was worried this would happen. They are a lot sometimes, and I should have expected this to be too much. What if I stay in your room tonight and we leave in the morning? It just would be easier to head out first thing. I didn't love that answer. In fact, I hated it. One more night sounded like hell. I knew it'd be easier with him beside me. But my fight or flight was kicking in, and it was telling me to run as fast as I could. Unfortunately, like an idiot, I agreed. I told him I just needed some water and a quick snack and I'd be back in bed. Heading back down the stairs, I wondered if I should just leave. Was David worth all this? As my mind was racing, I stopped in front of the cracked bedroom door of Linda and Pete. I knew if I could see the ex-girlfriend in that picture, it would give me the sliver of confidence I needed to stay the night. I knew deep down something else was in that photo. I could hear both of them snoring and I could see the pants she was wearing just inside the door. There is no way she left the photo in the pants, I thought to myself. And I had to try. I pushed the door open with a squeak. Why did those doors have to be so squeaky? I grabbed the pants and her dress line from the bed but ignored it in the hopes they would settle. I went into the bathroom and locked the door. I reached into the pants and I couldn't believe what I felt. She actually left it in her pocket. I pulled the photo out face down. I wanted to see the picture so badly, but now that it was in my hand, I was so scared to see it. As I sat on the cold tile floor, I heard the family start to walk up. David was coming down the stairs and I heard the dreaded squeak at the master bedroom door. I heard a whispered panic tone. Where did she go? Listening closely, I heard lights start to be turned on and walking around the house, trying to calmly find me. I looked down at my hand and turned the photo around. I couldn't believe it. The photo was of me as a little girl, maybe 7 or 8. It wasn't a photo I gave to them. I had only shown David digital photos of me as a kid. Even worse, I didn't recognize the photo. Sure, you don't know every picture ever taken of you, but I had on a shirt I didn't recognize, and I saw a pond I didn't recognize. No, wait, my heart froze. It was the pond on the property I saw earlier in the day. Why was I here as a kid? Why am I here now? I reached for my phone to try and call the police. It was low odds I could get reception, but it was worth a try. After panning all my pockets, I realized I lost my phone. Of course, the one time I don't take my phone with me is when I need it most. Bathroom. Bathroom. I heard a whisper from the kitchen, then the haunting cracks from the hardwood floor moving towards me. I held my breath and sat perfectly still. They knew I was there. They were coming for me. But I tried to convince myself I had a chance still, that if I didn't move I would disappear. In my silence, the brass doorknob jiggled. I heard Linda clear her throat. Hey Lacy. Sweetie. Are you feeling all right? Please. I want to go home. I don't know what's going on, but I want to leave. This is too weird. I'm sorry, David. I tried. I really tried. GETMEOUTOFHERE. I yelled as I hit the bathroom wall in a rage. Lacy, I don't think you understand. You can't leave, David somberly said with his mouth right by the door. Like hell, I can't. No, you belong here now. You are a part of the family. I could hear the 6-smile David wore on his face on the other side of the old wooden door. This is what you wanted, isn't it? A family? People to depend on? Yes, of course. I wanted a family. But not like this. Not this bad. Lacy, open the door, Pete commanded. Why on earth would I do that? If you don't let us in, we will come in. The sound of Pete's voice bounced in the air. A long pause as we all waited to see how the next couple of seconds would unfold. I backed up into the bathtub. It was the farthest away from the door I could possibly get. My back was flush against the wall in hopes I would disappear into it. The silence in the air was broken when I heard a long sigh and the sound of heavy, angry footsteps heading away from me, then followed by a loud door opening and closing. I was terrified at the thought of why he left. My mind tried to tell me he gave up, but my anxiety told me the worst was yet to come. Moments later, I heard the door open and close again. It was paired with the booming voice of Pete. Lacy, I am coming in there to get you. I swear if you don't get back from that damn door. Dad, what are you doing? David spoke up in my defense. She will stand back. She's smart. Bang, bang, bang. A sledgehammer came smashing through the thin door, just like a horror movie. Pete's large arm came through the new hole in the door, and I locked the door from the inside. The door came flying open, and I was met with David and his parents staring at me. Their expressions were hard to read. Sadness filled their eyes while they clenched their fists in anger. David chewed his lips nervously, while Linda took short, shallow breaths. Pete started to move towards me, his sledgehammer still ominously in his stone-cold grasp. As he got closer, he raised it above his head. I felt at that moment I was going to die. I now unfortunately understand what people mean when they say their life flashed before their eyes. I thought about how I'd never know my father, how I would never have a good relationship with my mother, the children I'd never have, the places I'd never go. I wondered what I did to deserve this. Why me? Why David? Why? My eyes closed as I prepared for my end. I could feel a tear well up as I heard David speak. Dad, what are you doing? All this for nothing? Stop. I opened my wet eyes to see David sprint towards me, tackling Pete into the wall. You can't do this. You are letting your anger take over again. You promised this wouldn't happen. Again? Are you serious? Pete replied as he pulled himself out from the now broken wall and pushed his son off in. You know damn well it wasn't my fault. Stop denying it. David said, she fell down those steps because you pushed her. You have to stop blaming me. It was your mom who killed her. She knew how drunk Abby was. She could barely walk straight. You tell me why your mom thought it would be a good idea to ask Abby to go downstairs and get her something that drunk. Then she had to hit her head on the way down. Stop it, Pete. We are supposed to be on the same team here. Stop pretending David didn't throw her down the steps after she was already dead to cover up the murder. I know she was already dead. I don't know how you killed her, but I know you did. I know it, Linda said as she put her head in her hands. Who is A? Abby? What did you people do? I said with a shaky whimper. Linda lifted her head out of her hands and left my sight. The two men stood up and walked to block the door. Linda soon reappeared around the corner with a cloth in her hand. David and his mother walked back towards me. I tried to fight back as David got close to me. I wanted to fight with all my strength. I knew I needed to bite, scratch, and do anything I could, but I just couldn't. I still didn't see David the same as I did even an hour ago, but I couldn't hurt him. He got my arms behind my back as Linda walked to me with the rag in her hand. I was greeted with the sweet smell of chloroform. I tried to fight the fading feeling as I locked eyes with David. It's okay, he whispered softly as I fell into darkness. The next thing I knew, I was waking up. I blinked over and over again, trying to get my eyes to focus. I felt dizzy and out of it. I hoped and prayed that as my eyes started to work I would see my room at home. I hoped I'd see my Pulp Fiction poster on the wall or mine in a green blanket. I rubbed my eyes and was heartbroken to not see my comfy room. Not just that, I had never seen this room before. It had pink walls with big flowers all over them, now covered with vinyl records and band posters. A room that was one for a little girl but had the fingerprints of a girl trying so desperately to grow up. As my eyes scanned the room, I saw a name on the wall. Abby. My heart fell to my knees. I sat in bed trying to gather my thoughts and everything that was happening. Nervously, I picked up my shirt only to find I was in PJs I didn't recognize. I got overwhelmed at the thought of someone taking off my old clothes and putting me in these new pajamas. The faint sound of music started to fill my ears. I slowly walked to the door and pressed my ear against it. Dancing music. Laughing. What was going on? I looked around the room to try and plot a way out. The window was shut and I couldn't get it to open. I thought I could maybe slam something into the window to break it. But if I failed, I thought the consequences could be far worse. I cracked the door open, and quietly as I could I tiptoed to my original room in the house and looked for my phone with no luck. In fact, none of my stuff was in there. Hope felt so lost. I was terrified. After weighing my options for a few minutes, the only idea I had was to just sprint out the front door and keep running up the road. The house was in the middle of nowhere, miles and miles beyond their property before anyone or anything. But I had to try. I took 3 big deep breaths and ran for it, down the hallway and stairwell, around the corner and to the door, telling myself the whole time to not look at them, pretend they don't exist. When I ran into the door, I tried to turn the knob but found a large lock on the door. Glancing up at the family, I was met with worried faces. "What's wrong, Abby? Don't you want some breakfast?" Linda said with a plate in her hand. Abby? Why did you call me that?" I panicked. "Oh, come on, Abby, don't start with us. Come have some breakfast," Pete said with a friendly chuckle. I looked around at all the doors and windows and saw large locks on all of them. I was trapped. As fast as I could, I grabbed a nearby rolling pin and threw it at the glass door. All it did was humorously bounce off like some kind of cartoon. The look of worry only grew on the deranged family's faces. I took one step towards them with the rolling pin in my hand. In a split second, David jumped up and ran to me, tying my hands behind my back with a twist tie before I had any time to react. He sat me down at the table to eat with them, ensuring I was tied to the chair as well as my wrists being bound. They went on talking and acting like everything was normal. After they were done eating, Linda brought out a scrapbook and set it down on the table. She began to flip through the pages and explain them to me. It was the pictures I saw from the night before, except the full pictures. The spots that were cut out from corners before now had me in them. "Can someone please just tell me what is going on? Who is Abby and why am I in all these pictures?" I begged. The family all exchanged looks and David spoke. "Listen, Abby, I know you were gone for a couple of years. I know you went through a lot while you were missing, and it's a lot to adjust to. But we are here for you. I'm just so happy to have my sister back." "Excuse me? You're what? You've got to be kidding me," I yelled. "You are a sick freak. What is happening?" I struggled to get out of the chair with no success. I just fell to the ground while I kicked and screamed. Eventually, they left the room and started on other duties around the home. I got tired of the struggle and laid still on the slick kitchen floor with my cheek pressed against the ground, sitting in my own sorrow. I thought I would come up with a plan, but nothing. Soon, David came to me. He lifted my chair up and sat in front of me. "This is what you wanted," David whispered. "What are you on?" "How on earth is this what I wanted?" I whispered back. "A family. You wanted a family. You never had a real one. I knew you craved it. We lost someone in the family and you needed to find a new one. It only makes sense." Yes, of course I wanted a family. I wanted to make a family. I wanted to have kids with you. David, I wanted to marry you and start over with you. I didn't want you to be my brother. How does this make any sense to you? Please let me go. This isn't what I want. I begged. You can't deny this. You saw the picture. You are the spitting image of Abby. You might as well be here. It's like she never fell down those steps. You are sick. You killed her, didn't you? I said as he leaned back in his chair with a smirk. I didn't kill anyone. You are right here. Abby, we missed you so badly while you were gone. He stood up and walked out of the kitchen. After sitting in the chair all day, they came to untie me. I made up my mind after sitting in the chair for so long that I would just go along with everything until I found an escape plan. They slowly freed me but stayed close by, waiting for me to run or try and hurt them. But instead, I sat and smiled at them. "It's so nice to be home again," I said, hoping they would fall for my insincerity as they all made eye contact. "We are so happy to have you home," David said with relief. The family all shuffled off to their own bedrooms and shut the doors. I figured I would do the same. I rubbed my tired eyes as I walked when I made it to the staircase. I was still where I stood, studying the pattern on the carpet, trying to see if any blood stains from Abby still remained. I looked at the top of the steps, imagining what actually happened to that poor gal. What was the truth? Are they delusional, thinking they can actually replace her? Or do they feel so guilty they feel like they had to? With every creak of the wood, as I walked up the steps, I swore I could hear her final screams. I made it back to my room, Abby's room, and found a phone on the nightstand. It had no password, so I was able to get in. It's probably no surprise, but it was Abby's. My phone is nowhere to be found. I am stuck with hers. I tried calling 911, but the line just rings and rings. I have no numbers memorized to call and help me. I was an idiot and didn't tell anyone where I was going. My co-workers will notice I am gone but not care enough to look, and have no clue where to tell the police to look. I'm hundreds of miles away from my job. No family members care enough to come looking for me or even notice that I'm gone. The only people who care about me are these psychopaths trying to gaslight me. The thing that hurts me the most is this was supposed to be my chosen family. I was supposed to get married. That's all I wanted, and they could have had it too. But it wasn't enough for them. They couldn't have a new daughter-in-law, but they had to have a daughter. The daughter they lost. The daughter they killed. I'm posting this here with Abby's phone because I don't know who else I can ask. I'm crossing my fingers that this somehow gets posted despite some technical issues I've had. The plan is to lay low for a while. Maybe try and run once I earn some trust. I would be running for a long time before finding help. This isn't what I had in mind when David asked me to spend the rest of my life with him.